Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is a Ukraine war, I guess, breaking news update. It has materialized that Ukraine has accused China of providing Russia with satellite data for missile strike targeting. Now, this is something that I have said for a long time. I haven't spoken about it too much recently though, but those of you who have been following my channel for a long time will have heard me talk about how I'm pretty sure China is providing Russia with satellite data. I did a video right near the beginning of the war about how Russia's satellites were old, possibly even defunct, were poor resolution. People think that Russia, like one of these main space, one of the huge space superpowers, right? And that they must have really great satellite provision, but actually they don't. They've got a bunch of old satellites that really need replacing, and the resolution is arguably, or certainly was at the beginning of the war, not very good. And I really think that nearer the beginning of the war, assuming Ukraine had access to European and American satellite imagery, at least to some large extent, and with Russia's poor satellite situation, that there was an asymmetry there that was very much to the benefit of Ukraine. But I think over the course of the war, Russia has lent more and more on China for pretty much everything, right? And I said at the beginning of the war that the only way that Russia prevails in this war is if China gets involved. And I really think they're doing that. I think if China hadn't helped, 99% of Ukraine's drone components are from China. They are massively dependent on China, the Russians. And here is potentially another area. So I'm going to read you this very short article, but I think this is incredibly important. So Kiev has evidence that China has provided Russia with satellite data that has been used to target missile strikes on Ukraine, including strikes on facilities used by foreign companies. A member of Ukraine's Foreign Intelligence Service, SZRU, said on October the 4th. SZRU employee Oleg Alexandrov, told Ukrinform that there is evidence of, quote, high-level cooperation between Russia and China in conducting satellite reconnaissance of Ukraine's territory. According to Alexandrov, a goal of reconnaissance is to identify strategic targets for attacks. Quite at the same time, we have seen in recent months these targets may belong to foreign investors, he added. So the Flex industrial plant being hit in the Zakarpattia region being this American factory. But it could be other things that have been hit that we don't know about. There will be an awful lot of Russian success in hitting Ukraine's industrial military infrastructure over the past few months. I really do think Russia are heavily involved in this. Alexandrov did not disclose additional details about Ukrainian targets that were allegedly struck with Chinese satellite intelligence data. China officially claims neutrality in Russia's war against Ukraine, but has indirectly supported Moscow's war through continued trade and by providing dual-use goods to Russia. During Russian President Vladimir Putin's last visit to China, where he met with Chinese leader Xi Jinping, the two countries signed more than 20 cooperation deals in energy, technology and other sectors, Russian state news agency TASS reported, and Putin lauded the relationship between the two countries, saying that they have reached an, quote, unprecedented level. This is just, it is a big worry. I'm particularly concerned at how much Russia is helping. And when you're talking about targeting, and this might be why the US has just recently announced that they are going to help, or Ukraine announced that the US is going to be helping Ukrainian deep strikes into Russia with satellite imagery, further satellite imagery, satellite imagery going much further into Russia. That could be a response to this. I think it's no coincidence you're hearing these two bits of news coming out pretty much at the same time. And I think this acts as a justification for the US giving Ukraine extra assistance there. And it's not the sort of thing you would expect US to suddenly do. Yeah, I know that Trump has changed his tune on Ukraine and Russia to some degree, but you would think that there would be some kind of trigger for the US suddenly saying, yeah, we're going to give more satellite data to the Ukrainians so that they can hit deeper into Russia. And then a couple of days later we hear, oh, China's helping Russia to strike deep into Ukraine with satellite imagery. So I think that these two things are very much connected. Anyway, let me know what you think. But my position is that China is a massive challenge for Ukraine, and something needs to happen with regard to China. Now, I know Trump is pushing very hard for the EU to go heavy on China, and that's very difficult because, of course, there's economic reliance on China to a huge degree. But I think there does need to be some serious political pressure on China with regard to their assistance for Russia. But that does present dilemmas, right? You then economically hurt you financially hurt your economy, shall I say, and then that has a knock-on effect to voters. One always has to consider, well, what are our general public going to think about this? Because actually they're the ones that are either going to vote us out or in next election. So, yeah. Anyway, let me know what you think about all of these topics and what you think about China providing Russia with satellite assistance.